start by acknowledging we're on the homeland of the many diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to live, work, and play on the traditional territory of Treaty 8. And with that, we'll move to our agenda. And I know there was a request to move item 8.1, the proposed group home, up right to 2.3, which are 2.123, right after the Mackenzie Municipal presentation, so that they can be here and we can ask questions on that particular item while they're here. So we'll move that one up just before the public delegations. Well, we'll motion that when we approve the agenda. Yeah. Is there any other changes? Can I get,
Just have the addition, which is the CAO action list. I put it on your desk in front of you. It's in there, it's just on the side.
It's on the agenda, yeah, it's just a handout. So, yeah, it's not a change to the agenda. So Councillor Wakel made the motion with that one amendment. All in favor? It is carried. And so with that, we'll move to our auditor. There he is, good.
Yeah, I'm on the screen, hopefully you guys can see me and hear me.
We can see and hear you. Are you able to hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good.
Okay, good. That's good. We'll try to speak up when we're talking to you. So with that, you know what, I'll just turn it over to you.
Excellent. So for those of you guys that haven't seen me around before, my name is Edward. I'm a partner with Doyle & Company. Also the engagement manager for the town of High Prairie. So myself and two of my staff usually come out here, do a couple of days a year. I think we come out November sometime to do an interim audit, and then we also come in March, February, late February is the plan anyway, to do the year-end, field work that we usually do. So we're independent from the town. That's one of the major reasons, that we always look for. So I always assess with our team as well. At the beginning, I give this in all my presentations. The most important thing that everyone wants to know is are you independent from the town? We are. We assess that before we get engaged to do the audit. We assess that during the audit, and we also do that before we finalize our opinion. So for 2023, December 31st, we have issued a clean and qualified audit opinion for the town of High Prairie. I know that right now we are in October, so some delays there, right? So some delays in finalizing this. We're probably 5 or 6 months from where we want to be. We majority usually have these meetings and presentations right around April. So a big reason for that, is we get really busy right after May as well. Another one you guys might have heard is I think we got the statements for the Waste Management Authority in July, right? So I think those are probably done. I think we didn't get them sent to us until July. So it takes a fair bit of time to kind of consolidate those numbers into your books as well. So, yeah. But, as an auditor, what we do is, when we come in here during our interim audit, what we end up doing is, because the year hasn't been finalized yet, we usually look at your back end, which is your revenue, your expenditures, up until that point. And then when we come for our year-end field work, which is in February, March, sometime, what we end up doing is we do the rest. We also look at your balance sheet at that time. So some of the things we do is we take a sample, say for example, for your expenses, we take a sample of that. And then, if there's no issues with that original sample that we take, we move forward, right? If there is an issue with that, if there's not proper approval or something like that, we do an additional sample. And if we do run into any issues, we usually write a report, a management letter to the manager, the CAO, the finance controller there, the treasurer, and then they're responsible for bringing that attention to you guys. If that's not available, we do write a letter to you guys as well, indicating some issues if we find anything. So the rest of the, so that's the, I think you guys have a copy of this that you're looking at. So the audit report, I think you have is in a draft form. The first two paragraphs there, that's where the opinion is. That's where it's a clean and qualified audit opinion. If there was some other opinion in there, like it would say right on that first paragraph. So say for example, if you guys did get a qualification, or if you got like a disclaimer, or if, you know, the worst case scenario is if we show up and said, we don't even want to give an opinion for the town, we're just gonna leave. It would all say that in the first two paragraphs, right? The fact that it doesn't say that, that's where it means it's a clean and qualified audit opinion. The rest of the audit report, it's a 2-page audit report. The rest of the audit report says what your guys' responsibilities are, you know, what our responsibilities are. And one of the things that I think is good to keep note of is we're not forensic auditors, right? We're not there to look at every single transaction that the town goes through, right? We just look at the overview of everything. So one of the things that does happen is, you know, people always ask me, is like, well, what's the difference between, you know, why don't you look at everything? Because we'd probably be there for months, right? Looking at, you know, every single transaction there. So what we do is we do, you know, samples of things, and then we use that and gather appropriate evidence, and then we give an opinion on that. Okay? So, I don't know if we want to do questions during, or, you know, should I just go through the whole thing first?
Yeah, I think it would be fine if you went through your report and then we can ask questions at the end.
For sure. So that's a portion of the audit report here. Usually I'll go through the financial position, which is, you know, often referred to as your balance sheet. I'll go through that. I'll go through some relationships where you guys ended up for the year. So cash at the end of December 31st, you guys are sitting at about $11.5 million in the bank. One of the, you know, when I look at cash by itself, generally it's not a very meaningful number if you don't look at the relationship with it. So we gotta always look at that with your deferred revenue, which is about half the page down. There's $2,083,858. So that's your deferred revenue. A majority of that is MSI. I think the rest of that is that the CCBF, the Canada Building Fund. I think it's formerly federal gas tax. So that's the other $300K. So a majority of that is MSI and that CCB CF fund. So you look at that relationship there. So you have $11 million in the bank. Your deferred revenue is money that you've received or is receivable for those projects, right, going forward. So there's about $2 million in projects going forward. So you got a lot of cash that's you know in excess, right? So when you look at the bottom line, you guys have a lot of cash for overages, and that's the kind of relationship that I like to present to council and to the managers there. So your receivables are broken down into a couple of portions here. You have your taxes receivable of $489,000. Your receivables from other governments is $231,000, and your trade and other receivables are $1.5 million. So a lot of stuff in that trade and other receivables. And why that number is so high is because these are numbers at that point in time. Generated receivables, money or taxes that's owed to you guys at the end of December 31st, right? So what ends up happening is you could receive a lot of that money January, February, March. That still shows that number here. And in that trade and other receivables, there's some DRP money from the government of Alberta, utilities, GST receivables, and all that in that amount. Accounts payable, that's the opposite of what an accounts receivable is. So that's money that's going to your vendors or suppliers at the end of December. So again, because this is at a point in time, a lot of people are like, well, how come you guys don't pay your bills? December 31st, right, is that cutoff period that we have. you know, if we looked at this in January 5th, you know, that number could be vastly different. You would have more, you know, more payables coming in, you know, the next few days, weeks, you know, it all kind of depends on when you pick that year-end date. So, it's not necessarily a meaning that you don't pay your bills. It's just saying that at that point in time, you owe people a bill of $1 million. So deferred revenue went through that. Your long-term debt is 1.25 million. That's the debenture you guys have. Let me see if you guys wanna. Sorry, I'm gonna take it to a bunch of pages here. If you guys scroll down to page 21, where the debt limits are, I usually like to look at that number with the debt limit. So the total debt limit the town has is $19,713,810. The total debt you guys have is $1,251,823. Right, so the amount of debt limit that's available is $18,461,987. Right, so I think that's, you know, you guys use a little bit around 6%. Right, debt service limit 3.2 million. You guys used 395,000. So the debt service limit there available is 2.8 million. So one of the things I always caution towns, villages, all that sort of thing with debt limits is that is a, you know, that number is calculated by your revenue as well. So, you know, I'm not saying, you know, go take out a debenture for $18.5 million, because next year, you know, your revenue could be decreased and that debt limit could change a little bit. But you do have a lot of space available. Okay. So let me see here. So back to page 4, the financial position. Then the other item I have on here, tangible capital assets, ends off at 45,664,858 at the end of December 31st. Major additions included the sports palace floors, 1.26 million, some work to the lagoons, a couple of vac and bucket trucks, some vehicles. And then there's a lot of construction in progress at the end of the year. 52 Avenue was one of them. Arena cooling tower, that's finished now. And then some more lagoon repairs, right? That makes up most of the additions for the year. So that's the statement of financial position. So that's often, if you hear anybody refer to it as a balance sheet, that's the one they're looking for. Okay, the next one is your statement of operations, which is your revenue and expenditures. So your revenues end up at 13,142,540 at the end of the year, a little bit higher than last year. A couple of the big things that I wanted to point out here is your interest in investment income. That's way up this year, right? It's almost about 450 grand higher than it was last year. So you guys have more money sitting in the bank. You had more interest. Interest rates remained high in 2023. So that's the reason for that. The other biggest change I think here was the user fees and sale of goods. I think when we looked at that, majority of this, the sale of natural gas was the biggest portion of that decrease, right? I think the rates changed down quite a bit from 22 to 23. And then corresponding to that, when you look at expenditures, you also see a very similar decrease as well. And if you look at that line, gas distribution, you know, generally when you're selling less gas, you're also buying less gas, right? So all that, still confusing at this point. Hopefully this is the part that clears things up. You guys can go to page 8, which is the consolidated schedule of changes in accumulated surplus. Hopefully this kind of brings a better, like generally this is one of the schedules that a lot of our municipalities, a lot of our First Nations, a lot of clients really look to the schedule for how they're doing for the year. So what we generally look at here is there's 3 columns: your unrestricted surplus, your internally restricted surplus, and your equity and tangible capital assets. So, you know, when we look at the change in accumulated surplus, you see that minus $1.6 million. You're thinking, holy crap, things are not going well. You know, our unrestricted surplus went from 6 million to 4.5 million this year. You guys transferred over $2 million from your unrestricted to your internally restricted, right? So you got to look at that in a relationship with each other as well. So your internally restricted surplus went from $5.1 million to $7 million at the end of December 31st, 2023, right? So if we got rid of that transfer altogether, you would have had a $400,000 surplus in unrestricted. Your overall accumulated surplus is increasing by $2.1 million, right? That's with a $3.8 million expenditure in tangible capital assets. You know, your amortization is factored in here. Your long-term debt repayments are factored in here. So this is why this is such an important schedule to have. I'm not entirely sure you guys might have seen this a few years ago, but this is kind of standard with a lot of municipal audits. You know, this is something that you can see that, you know, what your revenue and expenses are over, that's kind of your like your net income. $2.1 million after everything you spend for tangible capital assets, everything you paid off for debts. You know, your amortization is kind of removed out of there. You know, you're ending the year off with your unrestricted at $4.5 million. Your internally restricted ends up at $7 million, which is a $2 million increase from last year. And then overall, your surplus has grown by $2.1 million. Okay, so that's all good news. If you can't hear that from my voice, that's all kind of good news, right? So it's going in the right direction. Things are growing. You know, you guys aren't running a huge deficit. Yeah, and then the rest of the financial statements that I did want to go through, there's a lot of information in here. You know, page 9 goes through your capital asset listing. A lot of notes in here, a lot of breakdowns for kind of all the support from that statement of financial position there. There's a lot of numbers in here. And then when you get to the notes here, generally what you can, this is all going to be public information once we submit this to Municipal Affairs. Once we get the signatures off, we can send it to them, and that'll all be posted on Municipal Affairs website. So everything here, all the notes to the financial statements, the support, and everything is going to be posted. Generally, everybody asks me for page 23, which is your guys' salary and benefit disclosures. That's usually a hot topic with a lot of municipalities, a lot of First Nations. So that's all in here. That's all included. You know, they're pretty standard. That's one of the requirements that they have for us. And then your deferred revenue, usually that's another one that everybody always asks me about, is on page 20. That just kind of gives you guys an idea of what sort of, you know, what kind of, you know, the funding that you have available for the deferred revenue, right? So you can see there that 1.6 million of that is from MSI Capital. Once you guys decide some projects to use and submit the reporting for it, you know, you'll get that money and then you can spend it for that project. So the majority of that is MSI and that Canada Community Building Fund. A lot more support to the rest of us, but yeah, other than that, I mean, things are going well, right? They're going in the right direction. You know, I'm gonna have a management letter prepared for Shanda and you know, the CAO. So usually, you know, one of the things that we're gonna work on with them is trying to push this timeline forward, right? We wanna, you know, we get so busy in May to really to the middle of August that, you know, we can get this stuff done, given that your guys' books are ready for us before May 1st. But you know, we want to work with the finance team to make sure that, you know, everything's ready for us and that, you know, we can do what we do and get this to you guys done in a timely manner. I was thinking, even if we don't have the Waste Management Authority financial statements, we can present you a non-consolidated financial statement first. You know, kind of get you guys in compliance with municipal affairs early, and then once we get that financial statement, we put that number in, right? So it's just kind of getting all that stuff organized at the same time is a little bit difficult, but I'm sure none of us want to be doing this in October, right? So. But yeah, other than that, everything else was good. You know, the finance team has been awesome to work with. They've been giving us everything that we've been asking for. Yeah. My team doesn't seem to have any really other issues other than that. I mean, your GST file, that's usually the biggest thing. You know, because there's quite a bit of money in that as well.
All right, are you ready for questions?
Sure am.
Okay, I'll just open up if anybody has questions. All right.
I have a question on, if you can shed some light on why our receivables from other governments, last year was 1.2, and this year they're 231,000.
Yeah, so usually majority of that receivable from other governments is Big Lakes County. So like I mentioned before with accounts receivable, what that ends up being is because it's that December 31st, you could potentially have a higher receivable if you're doing more projects last year, or if they just haven't received the money from them yet, right? So because these are December 31st year end, like I said, it's sometimes, there's always gonna be a receivable number on there. It just kind of depends on how much they owe you at that point in time. So they owed you more at the end of December. This year, I think it was about 200, and there was like a couple of little amounts there that they owed you at the end of December that we could find the invoices for. So that'll actually all gets cleared in like January 15th. I think when we looked at the dates, they actually received it all. But because these are December 31st year end, we have to show it as they owe you money. Yeah, and that's kind of the difference. They just owed you more money at the end of the last year. I think there was a couple more things that they owed. I think there was maybe some of that, I can't remember what the assets were that you purchased last year now, but they just had a little bit more contributions. So where do you guys again haven't received yet?
Sorry, just wanted to point out maybe the council here also, that if regarding the government transfer receivables, if you look on page 19 of your report, that's broken down in note 4. And sorry, if you haven't known me, I'm Herman Mineron, I'm the interim CAO here. So.
Oh, yeah, I was like, okay, yeah.
Where are you coming from?
That's perfect.
So, I just wanted to help to answer John's question.
Yeah.
Or Councilor John's.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? I just have a question. Is there anything that the town can do to speed up the process for you? I know we had to wait until July for the statement from the Waste Authority. Yeah, but from the town's point of view, is there anything that we can do to speed it up? Because you're right, we'd like to see this done in much
100%.
earlier.
100%. So I think the only recommendation I would say is, you know, because the timelines we come out there are perfect, right? We come out in November, usually we spend a day or two there. We get all the back end stuff 90% wrapped up, and then when we come in February, we do the rest. You know, the majority of things that we ask for at the end of February is just to make sure your books are finalized and closed. And I think what kind of got away from us this year is we might have left those books open for a little bit longer than we wanted to, for adjustments, right? So when we come in February, and that's kind of early too, late February is generally pretty early for municipalities. Like I want to say maybe we give you till March, you know, maybe the beginning of March. You know, we'll get a full set of books and maybe we just cut off the transactions. If you guys have some stuff to enter in afterwards, just give us the adjustments there, and then we can kind of look after that way. And then in terms of waiting for the financial statements, like I said, I think the biggest thing is we can go forward with a non-consolidated financial statement to begin with. At least that way, you know, you can say, well, we're done our stuff. We're ready to go. And then when we do get, you know, the library is usually never a real big issue. It's usually the Waste Management Authority. Like I think that last year, you know, their audit report says it was finished in May 30th. We didn't even receive the audit for the Waste Management Authority until July. You know, and then we get really busy because I'm on the road for 2 months in May, you know, up north. So, you know, the timeline just gets pushed back and pushed back. So, you know, as much as I wanna say, you know, it's your guys' fault, it's not. It's also us. We get busy. And unfortunately, things kind of get put on the burner. So if we can get that stuff kind of sped up, you know, we're more than calling getting this thing wrapped up by the end of May. You know, given that everything is there. So, and I think everything was there, right? It's just, like I said, sometimes we're waiting around for statements. And there was a lot of adjustments in the Waste Management Authority. I don't want to put too much pressure on those guys and too much emphasis on that. But, you know, there was a full restatement on that financial statement that had to be picked up there. And it's not just kind of typing a couple of numbers and calling it a day.
Okay, and thank you for that. And just the management letter, is there anything that council should be aware of in that, or is?
Yep, so I don't have that, I have it in point form right now. I told Sharon to send it to her right after, you know, depending on what you guys, if you approve the financial statements or not, I'll kind of send that over to her. But the only thing I have in there is the timeliness of this, right, is to kind of get you guys back on the timeline. Maybe even set a timeline, like I said, the interim audit's good, year end is good. We just gotta pick a cutoff date and then kind of go from there and then push forward. I think I gotta push you guys forward and you know, make sure you guys push yourselves forward to make sure this thing is done in May, no extensions. And then the only other couple of comments I have in there is just to make sure that we run the reports. There's a couple of AR, accounts receivable and payable reports that have to get produced at December 31st. Unfortunately, if you wait till later, they don't, you know, you gotta generate that report some other way and it takes way longer. So I wrote that down in there just so that everybody has a reminder to run those reports that date. And then the last thing is just to keep making sure your GST files, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys look, but your GST is about 140 grand that you're receiving back from CRA. You know, it's a huge dollar. Generally, if you spend that and you don't file anything for 3 years, they don't accept that ITC anymore. Right, so I wrote that in there. It's more so you guys are doing it. It's just I want to make sure that continues to happen going forward, so you don't lose out on that money that you rightfully paid out and rightfully should get back. Those are the only couple of things I have. The filing is good. I talked to my staff about it just this morning. Everybody was happy with. Everything was easy to find. You know, when we asked the girls there for help, everybody was extremely helpful, pointing us in the right direction. We could grab everything we wanted, you know, all the documentation, had the approvals, the ones we selected anyways had all approvals, and you know, we were able to do what we were doing. So.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Very good.
Thank you. That's good. Councillor Shishin, did you have your hand up? It was our finger up. I saw fingers up.
I didn't see which finger.
Yeah.
I had to figure out, just a quick
I
note.
can't see you, so I don't know which finger it is.
Yeah. It's all good. On page 5, on the consolidated statement of operations, under the revenue portion of interest and investment income, you might have mentioned this, I believe you did, but between the 2023 actual and the 2022 numbers there, under the interest investment income, there's a difference in there. Do you have a comment on the difference?
I think the comment I had in there is, you know, the bank account stayed kind of pretty steady at that 10 million plus range. I think for the majority of that 22 to 23 year, earning that higher interest rate that you guys are probably used to hearing about for the last year. That's probably going to start to slowly come down. I think it's still pretty good for 24 right now. But a majority of that is why that number is up. Right?
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't see any other questions. So thank you for that. And
Well, thank you guys.
yeah, appreciate that, and if something comes up after, we know we can reach out to you if needed, eh?
You sure can.
Okay, perfect.
Not going anywhere, so. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for inviting me to do this.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to go over it with us. We appreciate that and your patience in getting it done.
No worries. Okay, you guys take care. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Thank you. You have a good evening also.
See you.
Bye. All right, so we'll move on in our agenda then to Mackenzie Municipal Services.
Don't we have to accept that?
No, that was
What's the
just a
presentation?
presentation. Later
Okay.
in the agenda, there's a motion to adopt the audit. Yeah. Come on up, yeah, you can grab another chair there for. And when we get you, in the presentation, there's a little button on the mic. If you hit that and maybe just give your name and who you're with, because we do record these and it goes on the internet, so people will know who you are and where you're from.
If you're ready, we're ready.
We're ready.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Brian Allen. Excuse me. I'm the executive director of the MMSA. I'm joined with Comiete, otherwise known as KT. He's our manager of planning, or director of planning, manager of planning. Maybe just a quick little word about myself. I also am the CAO for the town of Grimshaw. And before that, I was an elected official. So I've kind of seen the MMSA for since about 1998, and wearing different hats. I was on council for 15 years, 13 of them as the mayor. Been the CAO for 11 years. And since March of last year, I took on the executive directorship in conjunction with the CAO job. And that simply became about because the existing executive director, Kelly Bunn, was looking to step down. So I had a quick conversation. He said, why wouldn't we look at this as maybe almost like a department of the town? There's 4 or 5 employees in Berwyn. Grimshaw, you're right close by, you're 15 minutes, 10 minutes down the road. So it was proposed to the board to try this. So I'm contracted by the town to act as executive director. I'm there in the office 4 to 5 days a week for half days. And so far it's worked really well. The board has looked at it after the first year and said this works for us. We want to continue doing that. So the reason we're here tonight is in advance of this visit, I did send out the strategic plan. I believe council has had a chance to look at it. So I won't go through that document page by page, but really what it does is it talks about the MMSA, what we are, and what it is that we do. And I'm sure that you're mostly familiar with the idea that we're a planning agency. We have 13 members. And we came about as a result of what used to be the Mackenzie Regional Planning Commission when this province was in that business and got out of it. The municipalities that were involved at the time decided it would be a shame to let that planning organization go. And so stepped up and became members of said agency and enabled them to keep planners in the region, which is very important for all of us because as a smaller municipality, Grimshaw, we're about that 2,700 population. We don't have the ability to keep a planner on staff or a planning department. We have me and we have give me a hat that says I'm the development officer and off I go. So I rely heavily on the MMSA. It really did for years. And then so now sitting at the table and knowing these planners the way I do, and I see the relationship that they have with the municipalities in the region, it's valuable for sure. If you're familiar with and looked at the strategic plan, it does talk about the services we offer. We have quite a lengthy list of services. I can touch on them briefly if you want. Really the big thing is that the daily planning advisors to the municipality at the pickup of a phone or a quick drive into Berwyn or the other way around, a planner can be in your community and working with your CAO or your development officer, whoever takes that role on in the municipality, receiving development permit applications, discussions around things that go into land use bylaw. They're there for you. A lot of long-range planning services, including area structure plans, IDPs, MDPs, all that buzzwords that we get out of from the provincial government that you must have as a municipality. And the biggest, most important one would be the land use bylaw, really, the Bible of planning, I guess, in your municipality. That what can you do, what can't you do, what's permitted, what's not, what's discretionary, and on and on and on. Special projects are another area that we're able to touch upon for members, things like cemetery studies or mapping of cemetery, recreation master plans. We're doing a park in Grimshaw right now. The agency's working with us on, coming up with a master plan for that park and how it looks, and mapping it and working with us on the features that go into it. There's a number of things involved with that. Development permits for some municipalities, the development permits come directly to the agency and are they go through it, they make a recommendation back to your municipality to, sign off on it if you choose. Some of us take the development permits ourselves, like Grimshaw, I receive them, and I approve most of them if they're within my wheelhouse, but if I need that advice, I pick up the phone and I speak with our planner. What else? We've got all kinds of different things. Another huge one is the subdivision services. So the agency also acts as the subdivision authority for a number of municipalities, not just the members, but others in the region. And there are mapping and GIS services, another really important one for the members. We, over the last year and a half, have created a really good base map updated. And some of the municipalities, you guys included, were part of this FCM map program, wherein each municipality received $50,000 of a grant. It was, maintained or looked after by the agency, and as a consortium, basically, we were able to go out and we were able to develop dashboards for construction of, maintenance of, and replacement of assets. So the big thing, the big buzzword lately in municipal government, and Herman knows this one, is the asset management program. So it's very important, and I think moving forward, we're going to see the ability for municipalities to get grants is going to be hinged on what kind of a program you have for replacement of and maintenance of those assets. So for the 8 that were part of that, this dashboard has been, it's pretty incredible. And what we've done is we worked with the public works departments in real time. They've been trained on how to, place assets on that map, do maintenance of. I'll use hydrants as an example. So if they're going out to winterize hydrants, work orders can be completed. Saying these hydrants numbered 1 through 50 need to be done this week, and what's the status of them? Have they been winterized? Are they put to bed? Is anything good? What's the condition of them? So as part of this project, we went out, we had a contractor come out and GPS locate your assets. So in the town specifically, it would be hydrants, sidewalks, and culverts were the ones that we were able to do through the grant. Now we're looking to expand to other assets now that they've got the skill set. Our GIS people have the skill set to create these dashboards. Another big piece of that, and it's valuable to our financial people, is because at the time that we were all identified, we were able to say, okay, what are the age of some of these things? When were they installed? What's the cost today to put a hydrant in your community? What the life expectancy is, and then they just go from there, right? So if we know this hydrant was installed 5 years ago and you expect a 20-year life, you've got 15 years left. What's it going to cost to replace that? When should we replace it? How do we budget to do that? So that's just one example of the asset management piece that we hope to expand across to other assets and to the rest of the membership. So some of the members didn't participate in the grant, some of them did it on their own, but we're trying to gather all this data and be able to say that it's a service moving forward that we can offer to everyone. That's about it, I guess, on services. Like you're familiar with that. I did get a copy of the contract for you guys. And so really, again, the reason for our being here is the 5-year contract is up at the end of this year. So we're out speaking to all of the members to see their interest in re-signing. It's a 5-year agreement. You'll see in the copy that's in front of you, so we put in red and catered it to you guys, what your requisition would be. And I'm happy to say that as a result of discussions with the board and the executive, the requisition going into 2025 is the same as 2024. We did increase our rates. And that's for a reason. To be honest with you, there has been, over the past year, we've been short on staff. And maybe some timelines were stretched a little longer than, we had originally planned to, and I'll let KT speak to, some of the specifics of the planning and the staff that we have. But I'm happy to announce that in the last couple of months, we've been able to hire a full slate of planners. So we have 4, including KT, planners in the office, and that's really what our maximum would be, and what our expectancy would be to have to service the membership that we have now. So as a result of discussions, like I say, the board determined that it wouldn't be right to say we need a cost of living or any kind of an increase going into the start of the next contract, because there are some things we need to catch up on, in all honesty, and I believe that we are able to do that. KT's working at getting these people trained and up to speed, and able to probably in the December board meeting be able to say, here's our schedule, this is what we plan on doing for specific documents that maybe need to either be refreshed or rewritten for the individual municipalities. The other stuff's pretty standard stuff. There is in there that the ability for a COLA year over year. So every year the executive would get together and they would look at the budget and they would make that decision. So some years the cost of living has been put into the contract. Other years they've done nothing. It just depends. I can say that over the last few months we've had discussions in regards to the financial viability of the agency. We're in very good shape. The administration was tasked by the board to identify capital reserves for specific things like building maintenance, vehicle replacement, things like technology, large format printers, those types of things. So we've got 5 specific reserve funds that are completely funded to the tune of $700,000. We expect to be in a surplus position this year because we were short-staffed. So I don't foresee any need in the near future, or even longer than that, for the agency to be coming back and saying our rates are needing to go up because we're in a situation where we don't have funds. We're sitting well financially. And as a board member, once we meet in December again, be able to see that the financial results to the end of the year and the budget going in will be prepared fairly soon. I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add, unless you guys have questions for us, unless KT, you have things you want to bring forward. He's going to talk later, I guess. But we were fortunate to gain the new staff. They're quite excited to be here, turning into a really good team with a lot of experience, and happy to be in the north, which is an important thing for us, because in the past, to a certain extent, the agency has been a training ground, so to speak. People come in a year or two and they're gone. KT's been with us for 7 years. He's proof that there is happy things happening and it's a good place to be. Won the new planner, Karine. It took me a year and a bit to get her out of South Africa. Quite the challenge with the government of Canada and immigration and everything else, but she comes along with a doctor husband, which is just fantastic for our area. Another fellow that we just recently hired, he went out of Edmonton, but originally from Iran. His wife's a dentist, it's another wonderful thing. And a young lady out of Kamloops that is just really, really eager to be involved and has some really good skills in mapping and fresh out of school, but wants to be in a small community. And I think that's what we need. The bright lights kind of beckon people sometimes, but having these planners that want to be in a small agricultural area and look at the kind of planning that, today they might be working on a subdivision in High Prairie, and tomorrow it might be an agricultural development in the MD of Peace, right? So it's some varied stuff for them. They get to see a little bit of everything. It's not all just city planning. So unless you have any questions, we would really welcome you back as members. We appreciate your membership over the past, and that really and truly, and if I put on the CAO hat, I find that it's hard to measure sometimes the impact that the agency has, because it's more than, hey, this year we did a land use bylaw and we had a half a dozen development permit applications or 20 of them, or whatever it is. It's the ability to pick up the phone, and when we need planning advice, it's there for us. It's right here, and with people that are familiar with your community. So one of our goals as part of our strategic plan was to make sure that the planners, when they're designated to a certain municipality, become familiar with it by way of coming out and visiting. Spend the day with your staff, your council if you choose, tour them around, show them your community, talk about some of the development that you want to see happen. Maybe things have gone right or gone wrong. And so that when the phone call comes by or the request comes, they're familiar with where they're at in the world. It's not just someone from Grand Prairie or Edmonton talking to you on the phone. It's someone that knows where you're at. Great.
All right, thank you for that. So I'll open it up for questions. I guess one of the questions I have was, I mean, you're obviously looking to get commitments. When are you sort of looking at those time commitments? Because we have to, you know, going into our budget in a little bit. So yeah, I'm just wondering what your timeline is.
Well, I mean, if you guys, I don't know when you're gonna go into budget deliberations. We've had some that have said, yeah, we kind of expected you were coming. We plugged your number into our budget already and we want to be a member and have signed. Others are saying, you know what, we want to defer to our budget. So, I mean, even a month or, you know, we're going to try and finalize our budget for the agency by December. So having some certainty on, you know, the revenue side makes sense. But certainly there's no rush. I just want to be out here and let you know that we're here and we can answer any questions and we want to support our members. So, yeah. One of the last ones we did, they said, well, we're going to take it to our next council meeting to discuss because they didn't want to make a motion that night anyways. They would put it on the next agenda as an agreement or whatever and deal with it then. So yeah. I would say if we had an answer sometime in November, it would be appreciated.
Okay. The other thing that you talked a little bit about was asset management, and that's something that I know our town really needs to get better at and improve on, and I mean, it's a big project. But I know you guys helped with some of the mapping on all of that stuff, but I didn't realize you were doing, you know, this is the age, this is when it be replaced, this is replacement costs. Are you able to help with that stuff more moving forward? Is that
so specific to those assets I talked about through the grant, we were able to do 4 basic. So it was, hydrants was split in half, right? It was maintenance and life cycle, and then sidewalks and culverts. So those would be the only ones available to you now, but your public works should have had a look at it. And I believe, I don't know, if, well, you're in an interim CAO idea now, so I don't know who in the office has had access to it, but if you go to the MMSA map, your map specifically, there are videos on there. And you can click the training videos and it'll show you how everything works. It'd be valuable for council to see that as well. I know that I sat in on the training for our public works guys. They are super excited just because they could take their tablet or their phone out and they were moving stuff around and they were doing all kinds of things. But for the back end part of it, that all should be here for you, right? That data should be in there, in that someone in this office would have said, okay, it's going to cost X amount of dollars to replace that hydrant today. And so it basically populates itself. So that is something you have access to. But if you need any assistance, or if you want to give Hector a call at the MMSA, I'm sure he'd be happy to zoom in, or Andre is our other GIS guy, he works out of Vancouver, and give you guys a little tutorial online, like through Zoom or whatever, and demonstrate the different features of it. It'd probably be valuable for you. Just so you can see the, you know, again, it shows them all, it'll show you ones that are active and aren't active and the age and basically that asset to replace all of them, it's this many dollars. And the timeline that you should be looking at, like you should maybe, if they're within, you know, the last 5 years of life, it's time to really get serious, but depending on if you have the funds. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm asking because I know we approved sort of, or we're looking at getting a sidewalk assessment done, but you guys did?
It was done as part of the.
Oh, it was done?
It has been done.
Oh, okay.
so when the assets were identified, they also should include the quality of them at the time, the condition of them, right?
Yeah.
So that should be on those layers of map as well.
So we should be able to get a report that says we've got this many kilometers of sidewalk, this many kilometers are in good shape, this many are in poor shape, and these ones are fair shape, right? They're,
Yes.
yeah.
All of that information is on the platform now. Yes, that's right.
It is there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. I didn't realize it was there.
I think, so we did do a training, I believe with some members of staff, including the Department of Public Works, but I had previously spoken to Trevor with the fire department because also there is a functionality and potential for emergency management tools and whatnot. So I think what has to happen, I spoke to Glenn also about a week ago. I think what has to happen is we'll have to maybe detail the training because I think because it's a new system, it takes time for people to get familiar with it and understand how it works. So the first training has been done, which was more like an overarching thing. We are available for additional training and also for expanding the scope of data collection so that all, like Brian said, there is a lot that platform can provide for asset management and linking that with budgetary planning and other planning tools. There is regular planning stuff that has been collected and is being used. Like we process all the development permits for the town. We've been doing that for about 3 or 4 years now. We get inquiries directly that come to us, including those that are directed through the town or they come to our office directly. So the first thing I go to is on the platform to look at where the location of that property is, or the proposed development is, what the setbacks may look like, what the surrounding uses are, and all of that. So it's a very, very helpful tool for planning.
Yeah, I know that we've been using you guys for a lot of that planning and development. I know we were working on some of the asset management and the mapping, but I didn't realize you'd done all of the state and that, because I know we wanted to get that done and start building a plan in our budget to say, you know what, to make sure that our sidewalks stay in decent shape. There's so much we gotta put forth every year to, you know, that get the poor ones done and the fair ones and the good ones in 20 years will now be poor, so they'll have time to do them. So get that schedule built and start looking at it for all of our assets. We're really not as well, you know, as good as we should be in that aspect.
I think that this tool, it's like any other thing that you have to embrace it. Don't put it on the shelf. You know, like let's do a plan and then we put it on the shelf and we have to blow the dust off once in a while. If your public works and your staff embrace it and get into it and play around, and they can do that without messing up the stuff that's there. So some aren't ready to go live yet, they're still learning, but once you're ready, then you're actually moving the data around and you're identified stuff on the map. But they can go and play with it, for lack of better terms, without changing anything. And so it's trial and error and you learn that way, right? So I really encourage Shelley Herman, get a hold of those guys and let them give you the overview of what's on there, and then that would be a really good step.
All right, and I'm assuming that if there's any more grants available for that kind of stuff, you would let us know and we can apply on it and stuff too, I'm sure.
It was an interesting time, you know, knowing that what I know now and coming into it fresh as the new executive director, I may not have jumped into it as quickly as we did. I'm happy we did, and I'm happy with the result, but because of the time commitment that it's taken. And FCM, believe it or not, it's not that easy to deal with. Like, they are quick to say this is a great thing and you're approved, but they don't pay until the end, and they don't pay until you've got all your reporting done. And so we were doing reporting for 8 municipalities, so we used one as a template, went through it time and time again, went back and forth a half a dozen times. Yeah, that's good, perfect. So they all should fall in line. It's the same grant, same program, same thing for each. That's when it goes to their office and 4 different people get the application and they all want something different. So it was, yes, we would look at other grants, but we would look very carefully.
All right, so last call for questions.
No, I was just gonna say, we did, myself and part of the public works team and roads team have done some training with that program, and they were quite excited about it, so.
Excellent.
Glad to hear that.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming on that part, but we want you to stay for a little bit longer, and I know we want to get done so you guys can leave within the next 10 minutes and make your other appointment.
We'll make it. I've got a heavy foot.
I lost his number.
Yeah.
You okay?
Okay, so we're gonna move on then to item 8.1, which is the proposal for a group home in High Prairie. And that is on what page?
Page 50.
Page 50, thank you. Can I get a motion on this one just to start the discussion? Oh, okay. Okay. Watch your step behind here again.
Which page 50?
50 on the bottom right-hand corner. Or bottom
Yeah.
left-hand corner. That's all bottom right-hand corner.
No, okay. No, it's-
Okay, I'll start this one off just to get it moving, that council consider the information provided and direct the applicant to apply for a land use bylaw amendment prior to approval of the development permit by the development authority. So that's my motion to start, and I guess I'll maybe just address a few questions there, because we did have a presentation from the person that's interested. We know it's not zoned properly for that. And I read what was in our request for decision. It says that some communities allow this and some communities don't. So it's a little bit of a mix, and we can, it's not cut and dry. But my question was around, like, I really like, when you say a group home is allowed, well, a group home is a group home in all situations, or they can be on a range, right? It can be from here to here, and what a group home really looks like. So the questions in our request for decision are, like, how many residents, what's the duration of stay, how many staff, what's the supervision? We did get a pretty good idea of that from the presentation that the individual made here to council. But my question would be, especially in future ones, if we put this in as a discretionary use, how do we get that information in the future? Or do we build that in right into the land use bylaw that, you've got to provide this information, or we'll only accept it if it's in these conditions, right? So many people and this many staff, and I don't know if we can get that specific, but I'll throw that over to you to see how we would work that.
Yes, and thank you for that question. So that is correct. So we highlighted a number of things that we felt that should be taken into account for future proposals, including the current one. So the land use bylaw amendment that we have prepared and has been brought before council enables group home as a discretionary use within the low density residential districts. We thought that's a better approach because once you enable the use as a discretionary use, nobody's entitled to a development permit or an approval compared to if it had been approved as a permitted use. So it allows the development authority to exercise more discretion over an application that is designated as a discretionary use. It allows them to consider, for example, the impact of the proposal on adjacent land uses, the appropriateness of the location, the facility, and whatnot. So that is one way to regulate that. In addition to that, I also added some regulations to the land use bylaw amendment, including information around how many residents will be occupying the facility, how long, their demographics, the nature of supervision, and all of those things that will help the development authority to gain more information about the proposal to be able to make an informed decision. And if approved, put proper regulations around that. So the answer to the question that you asked has been included in the land use bylaw amendment.
Okay.
So there is a use, then there are regulations that have been added as well. So.
All right, I don't believe that we have the amendment, the proposed land use bylaw amendment, but basically.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I sent that to administration last Friday. So my understanding was I was going to be given first reading today.
Or is it, no, it would have been here, right? I see that there's sort of sections of it, but I don't see where it would
That would be on page 52, land use bylaw.
Okay. Well, I see, it does show like the sections 11.2 and the purpose. But it doesn't really talk about adding anything in there, so unless I missed something.
Now, because the agenda preparation was done and has to be distributed on Friday, so we received that Friday, but it's too late to include that in, sorry for that.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
The request to prepare the amendment was sent to us around Tuesday or Wednesday. So, and then we had to speed it up and then sent it as of Friday, so I wasn't aware that hasn't been gone out. I thought it had been.
My apologies.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
So-
yeah, I was just,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, because when I did subsequently I spoke to the applicant before I prepared or finalized the bylaw to get a better understanding of what they want to do. And among other things, they indicated that the licenses that they have to obtain from the province, in terms of timeline, they need to start the home hopefully by November 1st. So I gave the impression that I told them that my expectation was that council will be given a first reading tonight and then the second and third reading, which is 2 weeks in your last meeting before the end of the month. So maybe that may not work out. So I wasn't aware that it hasn't come to council yet. So
okay, yeah, like I don't see it in the package here, but, yeah, and to get it done in time. So the other question I just want to ask is, in your opinion, is this an amendment that you would recommend?
that is, yes, we do recommend in our professional capacity. As I had mentioned in the RFP that was prepared earlier and submitted to council, other communities, including the town of Peace River, allow them in regular residential districts, and I have been privy to even working one before, which is located within a traditional residential district. So long as the numbers are not so high and the residents are not problematic in the sense that they are giving people headaches or causing any issues, then generally speaking, they are considered compatible with traditional residential uses or districts. So we would recommend that. And as I mentioned also, because we are enabling it or proposing to enable it as a discretionary use, it gives the development authority the flexibility, the authority to make a decision on each application on a case-by-case basis, versus if it were enabled as a permitted use, in which case then whoever applies for it is entitled to it. So if it doesn't work in a particular area, then they are not obliged to approve it, for example.
Okay, and I'm not sure if this is for you, but I guess one of my questions would, and we're looking at the timelines for this individual. It has, I mean, we can give first reading, hopefully we can give first reading, but we also need, we need to advertise it after first reading. Is that for 2 weeks?
That is correct.
And then we have to have the public meeting to deal with that.
Yes. So a way around that could be, because the MGA says that the public hearing has to be held before second reading.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot have a public hearing before first reading. So in other words, we can send out the advertisement tomorrow. Once I get into the office, we can prepare and send out the advertisement out for 2 weeks. And then the public hearing can be held prior to or during your next council meeting. And then once that is held, council can give all 3 readings after the public hearing in that same meeting. So long as the public hearing occurred before the second reading. So.
Okay, Kurt?
Okay, again, my apologies for not having this. Staff did receive and we did prepare the bylaw amendment.
Yeah.
So if council's amiable to this, I can pass this around, give first reading to it here, and then we can schedule that public hearing for the next meeting, which would be at least 2 weeks from now. And potentially then, if everything goes up through the public hearing, council will do the second and third reading or decide not to go forward with it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I prepared the bylaw actually, so.
Pardon me?
We prepared the bylaw
Yeah.
and sent to administration, yes.
So rather than directing the applicant to apply, is to then actually go ahead and provide first reading of the bylaw at this meeting.
That was gonna be one of my other questions. I thought they'd already applied for
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so the motion that the mayor read was from the previous council meeting. So subsequent to that, the applicant applied for the land use bylaw amendment, which was forwarded to us by administration. And then right away, we went on it and prepared the amendment.
Okay, so that's what, that was gonna be, yeah, that makes, for me, and we can, I think that makes a lot more sense, because when he was here, he was talking about his timelines, and we should get on with this, to not hold up back a development in our community, so. Okay.
First, we have to make sure everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to,
So you have to rescind your motion.
I can, well, we were talking about the proposed group home in High Prairie, right? So it's the same real agenda item, it's just that we would give first reading to a bylaw regarding the change to enable that, right?
Just want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah. So I will rescind my motion, and I will make a motion that we give first reading to a bylaw amendment, 05-2024, to allow a discretionary use of a group home in, what was it, R2?
Yes,
R2.
low density residential district.
Yes. So,
Add the, and then add on to your motion, the public hearing part of it, so it's all one motion.
so, and that administration proceeds with advertising for the public hearing, and they can also send in written objections if they had any also. So just advertising that change and making sure that's done. And like you say, we could do it prior to our next council meeting, so that would be a separate agenda item that we'd have to meet at 5:45 at our next council meeting for that, so that would be a different motion to hold it then. But,
Again, your worship, sorry, but in the procedure bylaw, under the agendas, they do have, as part of the meeting, public hearings. So we can include that on the agenda for the next meeting.
oh, we can? We've usually done it prior to,
Yeah, and I know that too, but the procedure bylaw does.
well, our past practice has been to hold it before the regular council meeting. So, you know, if we started at 5:15 or, because we don't usually have many people coming in. But this one might be different, so we might have a full house and lots of people talking on it. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I think, but let's start with this first one and then we can decide when we would do it. So, anybody have an objection on this or questions, comments on changing the bylaw to make this a discretionary use? It's all quiet. I take that as that it would pass first reading. So I'll call for all those in favor. Oh, you're in favor? Okay, and so that is carried. And I guess the next one would be that we ensure that the public hearing, do we want to do it as part of the meeting or do it before the meeting?
Do it before
Can people make it here at
5:30.
5:30 or 5:45?
So I'm not concerned about us making it, I think we can. It is give enough time to the public, it's 5:45, good time for the public.
If this is a concern of yours, you'll probably make time. That's what I would think, right? If you've got a real concern about this going in your neighborhood, you will get here.
And so,
And whether it's at 5:45 or at 6 o'clock.
so what are the things of advertising this? Is that a website?
Yes, Councillor Martin, so, the town has the option to put it in the newspaper or electronically on the website, social media, bulletin boards, yeah.
I think it should be in the paper and on our website bulletin board, but also meaning the applicant had a good idea, I was posting something right on the property so that the neighbors see it. Like just a little sign that says, hey, this is what we're proposing for here, and people can see it, and if you have concerns, this is where you direct your concerns or what you do with it. So I like that way of advertising too, just right there so people see it, and maybe even giving something to the neighbors in that cul-de-sac that they're looking at going into. I think that would be good, because it impacts them most.
Yes, I mean, I guess the risk with that approach is sometimes, you get an unsupportive neighbor and then you alert them to it. They oppose the proposal strongly. As is right now per the MG and your public notification bylaw, you have multiple avenues to advertise. So that's certainly kind of like I said, when some people they don't fully understand what the proposal is, then they might be opposed strongly to it without having the full information about it. So there are positive and maybe pros and cons to your different advertising methods.
Yeah, but I would say that if there's people opposed to it, that we'd have the applicant come and speak
Yes.
on behalf of it too, to try and
Yes.
to make sure, and we want the people to know, because this is my opinion only, is that if you just put it out in the paper, people may not even realize what it is and the impact it might have on them and that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, that's correct.
Just one more question for you, Kemet. Two things, with the notification, or pardon me, with that public hearing, you'll be here also for that, would you do that?
If requested by
Requested.
Okay.
And then the second half of that, the applicant would be in his best interest to be here.
That is correct.
So I'm thinking it's probably not a bad idea with that notification is to send a letter to anybody within 200 feet of the property or whatever our
Okay.
bylaw says, and follow through with that.
Okay.
And just to give them, say,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't addressed.
Yes, so we could do, in addition to the general advertisement, we could prepare notification letters
Yeah.
to all the adjacent properties, if that council deems that to be
Yeah, 20
appropriate.
copies, that's normal.
Well,
No,
it's in a little cul-de-sac, so you can hear
Yes.
all of the community,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
only the
Yeah.
10, 15 houses in
Yeah.
that cul-de-sac.
Normally in most land use bylaws, you do the notification when you are restricting or rezoning the property. For textual changes, they generally go by public notification and whatnot, but because of the potential controversial nature of this, I think it's a good idea to notify adjacent landowners as well.
Okay. Well, I know you guys have to run, and I know we can hammer some of the rest of these details out so unless there's anything else, we'll let these guys get on the road to make their next appointment, and we can talk about some of the details and get it done, and we'll, so we know we are going to give it first reading and go from there. So we'll need to get it advertised after that.
Thank you very much. The only final ask will be for maybe council to specify to administration the date of, or you have agreed to, for the public hearing, so that once we are doing the notification, we put that information.
That would be at our next council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, either prior to or during, but,
If I could just ask you one more question again. I'm not going to be here after the meeting tonight. I'm leaving the province for a short period.
Okay.
But is it possible for staff to talk to you or whatever regarding drafting that letter that would go out?
We do that. That staff is always in touch with
Yeah,
us.
no, I just wanted to know,
Yes,
so
yes,
sure
yes,
council aware that that's
Okay.
an opening.
yeah, we will draft the letter as well as
Great, thank you.
the advertisement. Yes, please.
Good stuff.
all right, thank you very much for coming in, and safe travels
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Brian has a little.
We appreciate the time. There's a little bit of swag here, but I just leave it on the end.
Okay.
I'll leave it for the nice young lady. And thanks again.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you very much for coming down
Thank you.
and your help on this land use bylaw.
No.
Are there $100 bills in those?
Forgot. Thank you.
Okay, so going back, we should make a motion to make sure that we set the date for the hearing, and that we maybe recommend how we'd like it advertised, just to make sure that it's covered.
Rather than setting a specific date, we can just put it at the next regular meeting, because that is on the agenda later, so that would then spell out when, what the date is.
All right, now, do we want that to be prior to the meeting, or
I think so.
like meet a half hour before?
5:30.
5:30. I know in most of our other ones, we get through these in, all we're doing is reading the steps. So we're usually done in about 5 minutes, because there's nobody that submits nothing. But if we do have a lot of discussion and people coming in for it, it could easily take a half hour. So, yeah, it's hard to know if we're gonna get anybody showing up. But I suggest that maybe we start at 5:30, because it might be one of those topics that we could get some discussion on, if people are all right with 5:30.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, I'll make the motion that we hold the public hearing at our, prior to a half hour before our next scheduled council meeting. And that administration advertise this change in the newspaper, on our social media and website, and by giving a letter to the residents in that circle, or in that crescent there. Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
You got that, David? Okay. Want to make sure.
Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
John's not voting on
Yeah,
this,
he's
he's
not
not here yet.
Yeah. Okay, it is carried. All right, so that, yeah. Now, going back in our agenda, do we have a public delegation? Seeing none? No public delegation, all right. So that takes us then to our fire chief's report. Can I get a motion on this? Councilor Dunn.
Council receives the fire chief's September 2024 report for information.
All right, thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chief to give us any of the highlights of his report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You've got my report in front of you, just a couple of things that I'm going to highlight on. We had our fire chase event on Sunday, and started off with about 37 registrations and ended up with a total of 67 registrations. So that was kind of encouraging, and Jen Anderson is sort of the spearhead behind that, and she's kind of looking at steps and things she can do to improve it for next year. So hopefully we will continue that, because it's actually a very good family-oriented thing for the community to just participate. We were blessed with beautiful weather that day, and for all accounts, most people had a good time. Highlight for tomorrow, this is Fire Prevention Week, and I'm not sure if you follow Facebook, but I have intentions, and I have done yesterday and today. There'll be a daily Facebook post for fire prevention. And we have our open house tomorrow from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We will be having free burgers, and we've got some support from one of the grocery chains in town here to assist with that. And we are also going to be doing some draws. I have 20 smoke detectors. Smoke detectors is the theme this year, so I have 20 smoke detectors that will be drawn and handed out to residents. We also will have some coloring activities for the kids and some demonstrations of smoke detectors and stuff like that. So if you don't have anything planned, please drop by. We'll also give you an opportunity to have a look at how we have the new engine set up. There's a Donna that came, I believe, and I can't remember the other counselor. Anyhow, you can come and have a look at how the truck is set up and the equipment that we have involved. We have been busy actually with some tours and kind of fire prevention activities with the schools. Today we had the preschool group, and last week we had some kindergartens. So our members have been kind of busy entertaining the kids and educating the kids as well. I have applied. It seems like I'm applying for a whole bunch of grants lately, but I have, as I made you aware, the FRIA grant that's been submitted, so we're awaiting that. There was a grant by Firehouse Grills. It's a new, for Firehouse Subs. It's a chain that is offering up to $50,000 for an item, and I submitted a grant for extrication tools, so we'll see if we're successful in that. And also the training grant for 2025-2026 training year, submitted application for approximately $6,000 for training, and we'll see if we're successful in that. So, and we also have the outstanding training grant. We had it for a while in urban interface training, but there was some conflict with instructor availability, so it's been postponed till spring of next year, which will still be covered in the grant. So basically, we have potentially 4 grants that have got applied for that can be applied to the fire department. Presently, right now, I'm working on the 2025 budget, and as it's turning right now, I don't foresee any major increases at all with the operational expenses. So be able to pretty much be holding the line. I'll be having a consultation with Shanda. She may educate me on a couple of things that I might have to change, but outside of that, it's in the works. And as far as I'm concerned, it's looking good. That's my report to council. If you have any questions or comments or whatever, let me know.
All right, good report. Any questions? Councillor Winkle.
Chairman, you don't have false alarms that I can see on the chart here, unless I'm blind, which is not out of question. But is the false alarm situation kind of still the same, going down?
Okay, so I think it was the last report, I said that I'm going to stop logging the alarms that we are called to and are stood down from. But as you can see, previous numbers there were 4s and 7s and 6s, and August, September's is now 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I said I want to reflect what we are truly responding to.
Right.
And I think that's capturing it better. I do have the ones that have been stood down. Obviously, I record those, but it's not graphed out here. And I mean, I can throw it in there if you want, but then everything's going to kind of get squished in. So understand that I am logging it, but I am capturing the ones that we are actually responding to where vehicles are on scene and on site.
Because lots of times it's just somebody cooking it.
Yes, absolutely. We had one young gentleman decide to blow a fire extinguisher off in one of the hotels at 3 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, he is no longer employed with the business, and he also received a hefty bill from us, so.
I can imagine. All right, thanks, Trevor.
I had a question, and it was regarding your activities, an invoicing conflict. I know to the CAO, brought to the ICF. Can you just give an idea of what that's about? So
Do you want the long version or the short version?
A short version.
A short version, so
It's gonna be coming around again. I just wanna know what it's about, so we're ready for it.
Fully understand. So, the town's mandate is for me to invoice based on resources, time, and manpower. And that's basically how I send out invoices. So if there's a structure fire, obviously it's involving resources, manpower, and time. Regardless whether or not the structure is insured. So, and Mary, you've been part of decisions being made, people coming and saying, well, we weren't insured for the structure, will you forgive that? And the history has been that that has been denied. The county is on a different mindset, and that is the direction that I need to have clarified, so I understand what the town's expectations are and the county's expectations, and how the two councils can blend that expectation together. Does that explain?
I understand now.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I can maybe support you a little more on that. Having been employed by county, where when I got there, they did not bill for any fires. And once I got there, we, myself and the fire chief there at the time, discussed it, and he couldn't come up with a reason why it weren't. And as far as I was concerned, I explained it to council this way, that when we respond to a fire in the county, it's costing the county, the taxpayers, money. And the fact, they came back and said, well, some have the insurance and some don't. I said, well, that's not a good reason for not to say it. You send a bill out anyways. If the person doesn't bill it, he does have property taxes. If the bill's not paid, we would roll those over to the taxes. And the bills usually got paid. They'd come up with the money one way or another. They'll get themselves a loan, or they would dig into their lot of gold they had stashed under the stairs and find the money for it. But yeah, I think it's proper that they're charged, just for council's thinking. And we do the right thing here. I think it's up to the ICF for us to discuss it with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, at present, right now, it is at the discretion of the CAO, the CAO of the county. And if it isn't insured properly, they will generally be invoicing, and if it's not an insured property, they will not be invoicing. So that's what I'm struggling with, that I need guidance with from both councils.
Okay, yeah, we can have that chat, but I can also see there might be two standards there, right? It's possible, but at least make sure that it's understood.
Yeah. You had another question, I'm not sure, I can't recall what the other question was.
No, I think, I did have another question. I'm just curious about the fire chase. Do you guys usually make any money from that? Is it a money maker, or it's a community service? I know it's a great event and gets the families out and everything else.
The idea behind it is not to actually, Lynn Pardell was actually the initiator of it. And her idea was to not really make it as a major fundraiser, more as a community event for the people of the community. We have had people stepping forward to sponsor. I can't speak of whether or not there's been a profit or loss right now, because that's still in the works. But that's sort of the idea behind it. Our idea is also not to go in the hole. So if that answers your question, I would probably say that we're not going to be going in the hole, but we aren't making huge amounts of dollars from it either.
All right, thank you for that. Anything else for the chief? No? Well, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you very much.
We had a motion to receive it for information. All in favor? Carried. Moving on then to, what have we got here? Our minutes. Starting with, our first meetings on September 10th. Get a motion on these minutes. A regular meeting of council on September 10th. Councilor Shisha.
The council approved the minutes from September 10th, 2024. Regular meeting of council is presented.
Okay, is there any errors or omissions? Councilor Martins?
So on this, what number is that? Prior to 8.4 on page 39, I know I recused myself for that particular discussion, and I didn't see it noted here.
No, that's a good point. It isn't on the minutes, and it shows, yeah. So we have that one addition to be made. Anything else? No? All right. Are you okay with amending your motion?
That's amended.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to the September 16th minutes. Get a motion on this. Councilor Dunn?
The council approved the minutes from the September 16th, 2024 special meeting of council as presented.
All right. Any errors or omissions on these? Councilor Waco?
Maybe note that you just came in a little bit late there. I don't know if that matters. You weren't super late. Just like,
It has you already, though.
I called it to order, but then the next one is,
Yeah.
Mayor Panasic made the motion to move in camera. I don't know,
It should be probably noted in there that you joined the meeting at November 6:08 and
Yeah.
assumed the chair.
Yeah.
That works for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay with that amendment in your motion?
Yeah, as amended.
Okay, is there anything else? All in favor? Carried. September 18th. Minutes, in a motion. Councilor Dunn?
The council approved the minutes from the September 18th, 2024 special meeting of council as presented.
All right. Any errors or omissions on these ones? All in favor? Carried. And the last set of minutes, October 1st. Get a motion on these.
I'm gonna accept as presented.
Okay, any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. All right, any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. 8.2, the Simcoe Customer Support Agreement. Can I get a motion on this one?
I'll move council approves the standard customer support agreement with Simcoe starting September 1st, 24 to August 31st, 26 at the annual cost of $8,476.
Okay, thank you for that. My question on this for our CAO is, well, number one, it's, and I guess it's a whole, like it should have been done before the agreement sort of started. But number two, what have we done in the past? Because I know they've done the work, but has it been on an agreement and this cost of $8,000? Does that cover all the work they come here and do, or how does that work?
It's probably best if I defer this to the finance manager.
So,
Do you want to come to the mic and then we'll hear you better?
I believe it basically includes startup and shutdown every season for the ice plant. It is all their equipment in the facility, so we kind of stuck with that, with Citgo.
So what have we done in the past?
It has been Simcoe in the past.
Yes, but have we had an agreement in the
Yes.
past?
Yes.
And so when we have an agreement, do we pay extra on top of that agreement, or they just come up and what do we get for the $8,476?
It is an increase from our previous agreement. I think we looked at it about $6,500, so it has come up a bit. So startup, getting the plant ready for startup in August, September, and then shut down. If there's anything in between that's kind of out of the ordinary, then there is extra costs in between. And I'm sure they come and do maintenance as well throughout the season.
Yeah, that's sort of my question, is if we're just paying for those two, startup and shutdown, why don't we just pay them for that as opposed to having a contract? I guess, what do we get out of the contract? And
Yeah.
what's our,
I can look into that a little more and provide you with some better answers for sure.
and I guess the other thing is, council, I don't remember seeing this come to council before.
I don't think it has.
I don't believe it has either.
Yeah. And, yeah, okay. I'm thinking, and I'm not sure when it should come to council, what's the,
My feeling on this is it is an operational item, so that if in the budget, if council approves it in the budget and that amount is in the budget, or something reasonably close to it,
Yeah.
then now once it's approved, it's up to the administration to then go ahead and do it. I don't think there's a requirement for this to come back every 2 years or so to council. It's no different than any other maintenance agreements we may have with some of the plumbers or whatever else in town. Simcoe is, they are the people that do this.
Yeah.
That answers your question?
yeah, sort of, I guess what you're saying is that council indirectly has been approving it because it's been in the budget.
Exactly.
But I guess it's never been something that we've identified as being in the budget, like it was
Part of the maintenance cost.
maintenance, yeah, it was buried, we never saw it as a Simcoe contract. And I mean, I think it's good, it comes in, we know that it's there in the future. And if we approve it, it just goes in as a number, and that's not an issue then, right? We know what that is, which is good. But if we are gonna approve it, it'd be nice to know sort of what was in it.
Do you want me to table my motion until the next meeting, so we can have those numbers? I mean, the ice is in. It's out of there, we're already past that part.
Yeah, did you want to comment?
I was gonna say, we don't do this meeting, and for what I said before, this is an administrative operating type procedure. That the council just directs administration to proceed with renewing the agreement as part of the operating.
Well, that's what the motion is right now. The council approves that.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that the approved administration to go forward and arrange the agreement.
No.
If council so wishes. Something in the future when we get to or when you get to, the end of 2026 contract, So hopefully this will come back to council, if it needs to come back to council in the summertime, or it's already been approved in the budget.
I guess,
It's up to the rest of the council.
It's a slippery slope.
yeah, I like, personally, I like the idea of these kind of agreements coming in. I don't know if there should be a dollar value, right? If it's less than this amount of money, it doesn't come in, but we're talking about another agreement later on, with the garbage or waste removal, right? So we've got a contract for waste removal that comes to council, we've got a contract for maintenance on the ice plant. Should it come to council, shouldn't it come to council? I'm not really clear on the line and when it should and when it shouldn't come to council. That's my, I'm not clear on it. Is it a dollar amount? Is it, how do we decide what comes to council and what doesn't? Do you have an answer? Oh,
No, but I do have, the agreement and kind of what it
oh, okay.
entails here. So there's one startup mid-season and one shutdown, consists of proper startup and shutdown procedures, plant checks, at all three inspections, record operating specifics, pressures, temperatures, levels, visual inspection of compression and condenser operations, twice yearly cold and warm brine and glycol analysis, once yearly oil analysis. Like there's a whole list here, so they do quite a bit of.
Of stuff that they go through, and
Yeah.
that's, and
Leak
then we don't
detection.
pay additional for that.
Only I think if there's a major incident, something breaks, then there would be some extra costs.
So the basic maintenance is covered,
Yeah.
anything above we would pay for. Go ahead.
Just one last thing also, this provides somebody who's qualified to work on CIPCO equipment. And so therefore, if you were to then take somebody else to have come in there, there's a good chance that they may not honor the equipment, you know, if anything goes wrong with it. It's sort of like taking your car, brand new car, shed, and taking it to a Ford dealer. Chev's gonna tell you, well, you didn't do somebody who's authorized by us, and so you're on your own now. So,
And the slight increase is because there was changes with ABSA, Alberta Boiler System. So instead of brine samples being done once a year, now they are asking for it to be twice a year. So that was part of their explanation why the increase.
Personally, I don't have a problem with it, I guess, but it does raise the question more of when should something come to council and when shouldn't it, and I'm not clear on that.
I go back to what Kevin said around this being operational. Really, are we as town council with all our skills, because we have a lot, but with all our skills, really able to make a really educated decision on this? Can we not leave it to the people that do our operations and let them make a decision on this? I think for us, when money's being spent, when we have to approve it is when there's a request or when there's things coming from the community. And, you know, and for me, I would say, you know what, if somebody comes in that is in the operations of the town and says this needs to be done, I'm gonna go with what they're saying, because I don't know otherwise. So why don't we just let them make the decision?
and one other thing that should be qualification in there is if it's an item that's budgeted for, and if it's within the spending authority of the manager or the CAO to do so, then that would be approved by there. If it's above my spending authority, then it should come to council, because that's what anything that goes over the budget or over the authority is required to do.
Do you know what your authority is?
Shannon,
Off the top of my head.
20?
It's quite high.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just thinking about that because, yeah, if it's above a certain amount, I could see it. And I do agree, like, I don't have a problem with this one, because they are, I'm gonna say almost a sole provider, right? Like, you can't, there isn't a lot of these out there, and it's very specialized. But when, I know we have a process when you've got to put things out for tender, and if things aren't going out for tender, why aren't they, right? And so, yeah. So two different issues, but yeah, just in regards to the customer support agreement, we can deal with that. Let's deal with that one. Is there any other questions on this agreement? Yeah.
So I think you raised it, you know, my issue with you isn't the Canadian Ice machine is coming in and doing this, they've done it for a long time, like Shanda said. It's not a slight increase, it's $2,000 of an increase. And I know basically that there's one extra thing that is required now, but is that the $2,000 worth? And did this, prior to September 2024, was there a 2-year contract before, so 2022 to 2024?
Yes, there was a contract prior to this.
2022 to 2024.
I believe so, if not a little longer.
So then, to our CEO's point, if that one didn't come to us, you know, then, no, okay. You're just extra dotting I's and T's.
Okay, so number one, just with this SimCorp agreement, any other questions on that? No? Okay, we had a motion to approve the agreement, all in favor? Okay, I guess the other, I'm just sitting here thinking that can we get, I'd like to have something where I'm clear in the future, right? This is a question that I'm not clear on. Can we maybe, I'll make a motion to direct administration to come back or to ask administration to clarify which agreements need to come to council and which ones don't.
Oh, sorry, I think that Herman had made a, but I don't know if that was agreement, but a lot of that stuff that you talked about needs to be in there.
Yeah, if it just comes back and we can talk about it, make sure, I think if we're clear on it, everybody's sort of clear.
And we can discuss at that time, what is the dollar values? Is it a recurring bill? Is it up by, you know, in this case here, if it hasn't been renewed for 2 years even, there's gonna be an automatic increase just because tradesmen have gone up. And these are refrigeration techs and they're not at the lower end of the scale for wages and that, so they probably got that. There's also, with everything else going on with the transportation, that they have to travel back and forth depending where they're bringing the people in from. And so some of that's reasonably expanded. They're companies, so they have to have a room for profit. They probably got a percentage. I don't know how they do that, but you know. But yeah, we can include that in there, both the expenditure authorities for the individual managers in there, and the amount that's in the budget or whatever for an item. And then the council at that time, once we put those information in front of you, you can sort of say, okay, yeah, we're good with that. Or if there's something that's above, you know, this, then bring that to us. So meeting with I had some of the staff ask me when we put out a request for proposal for contracts and that, do we have to come to council? I said, not really, because you know, we can go up with a request for proposal, we get a cost, because when we do come to council, well, how much are we talking? That's the first question that we hear from council. Unless we actually get the answers back on request for proposals, you're not going to be able to gauge that, because right now, the markets being what they are, and inflation being what it is, they could be all over the place, really.
So yeah, like I said, I'm just not clear, and I'd like it to be clear, both for ourselves and for administration. When should it come to council and when doesn't it need to come to council? Okay, so did you capture that motion? You got it?
You got enough there between you and Shannon.
Is there any other comments on that motion? Questions? All in favor? It's carried. And we can move to intermunicipal collaborative frameworks negotiations. And get a motion on this? I'll make the motion that council approves the opening of the intermunicipal collaborative framework agreement between Big Lakes County and the town of High Prairie for negotiations, and this process begin at a meeting tentatively scheduled for October 28th, 2024. I don't know if we need the time, but at Big Lakes County. So we know that those, I guess, I always viewed those as ongoing discussions anyways. It's sort of always open for discussions and negotiations. So from my point of view, I don't have a problem with having those discussions. That's what you have to have. Anybody have objections to that? No? Okay, all in favor? It is carried. And we have that council appoint Councillor Blank to replace Councillor Stenhouse on the intermunicipal committee. So we're looking at who else would be available right now. It's myself and Councillor Dunn are on it.
Yep, so I have to address that as well. Just because when they initially changed it, it wasn't the 28th, because it was supposed to be September 20th. And then they changed it to early October, which worked for me. But I am in high level on October 28th, so would not be able to be at the meeting.
If it was virtual, could you join, or you're working during the day? Because this is a day meeting.
Yeah, I know, and usually from 1:11 till 3.
Well, from 9 till noon.
9 till noon. I probably could make that work if they will do it virtually, for sure.
Okay, I know they have pretty good setup for virtual, if that would work for you.
Yeah.
And we could request that.
Yeah.
Okay. So go Councillor Wakel or Councillor Shishin, are you able to attend?
No,
You're working?
no, I'm not working that day. I have a medical thing I have to take care of.
Okay.
Looks like I'm available.
Okay, so I'll make my motion to say that Councillor appoint Councillor Shishin to replace Councillor Stenhouse on the intermunicipal committee. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
So, this should be qualified. I mean, are you expecting this to be for the October 28th meeting? Because then it should specify that. Because you left it open-ended and,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
I'd be open to you making that motion with the 28th being the replacement date.
Well, I wouldn't want to specify one date, but I would say that we would do it until the, I like your idea of saying, you know, here's the timeline until the end of,
December 2024 then.
yeah, until the end of December 2024. So that's my amendment. Did you catch the amendment? Okay. Anything else on this one? All in favor? It's carried. You guys ready for a break?
Yep.
Okay, let's take a little break and then we can move on.